my experience with my social media manager, and for each of us, it's going to be quite different. I've had this brand of digital nomad physician for quite some time, and I've had other brands in the past. For the most part, the content that I created was something I generated myself, and I would post it. From time to time, I would go to sites like Fiverr.com and have somebody create something specific for me. For example, if I created a batch of videos for an online course, I would have them edited and then give it back to me, and I could have them re-edit and tweak things if I needed to. So depending on how much you pay, you get a few revisions. It's different from each Fiverr employee or Fiverr contractor. At some point I decided, well, let me bring somebody in-house. So I went to onlinejobs.ph and I interviewed a bunch of people. And the way I decided who to interview when hiring a social media manager was to say, hey, these are the tasks I'm looking for. Send me your resume and tell me how well you communicate, as in demonstrate to me like how you communicate with someone. In retrospect, the problem with that is if you ask somebody how well you communicate and how you communicate, they'll give you the answer of what a good communication strategy is, but they're not gonna actually tell you how they communicate. And later I learned, okay, maybe the best way to do it is to actually put somebody to the test. So I actually did that. Before I hired my first social media manager, my full-time social media manager, I put them to the test. I had them create some content based on what I said, send that back to me, and post it and see if that worked. And I paid them for that time because I didn't want to take advantage of them. Well, the problem with that is creating one social media content is really easy because there's a difference with a graphic designer or graphic editor than a social media manager. The social media manager, their most powerful skill is probably communication and time management. And I'm learning that now after I've gone through a few social media managers, and in this video, I'll tell you all the pain points and all the complications and problems that I've dealt with. Let me briefly dive into the cost of a social media manager. So in general, you're looking at about $3 to $5 an hour if you're hiring somebody from the Philippines or Latin America, about $5 to $8 an hour if you're hiring from other countries in the world. And you're looking at about $50 an hour minimum, up to about $70 an hour if you're hiring in the US or even some of the other westernized nations, let's say. So you could easily spend $60,000 to $100,000 a year on a social media manager in the US. And granted, they're quite skilled at what they do, but maybe they're overqualified in the sense that the brand that I have, how small I am and how kind of straightforward everything is, I don't need somebody who has experience with HubSpot and is managing a following of 3 million or 1 million people. So in that regard, that person would be completely ineffective for me, in fact, because they wouldn't know how to communicate with the audience of a brand that's just starting. So I decided to hire from Philippines, and I went on onlinejobs.ph. I've also checked out, what is that called? Latin, whatever. I'll leave the link in the description, but Latino jobs or something. And I had good experience. The 3 people that made my shortlist for social media management were really good at what they did. The problem was either they really just created social media posts, which is unnecessary or useless because I can get that on Fiverr.com, or they just couldn't handle the workload. The final person that I hired at $800 a month, which is about, give or take, $5 an hour or so, this person came on, I paid her through Wise, and I gave her a 2-month onboarding process, meaning I first onboarded her over 1 month for one brand, which is my digital nomad physician brand, and then for another month, or for another 2 weeks, I onboarded her with Dr. Ashori. Now, for sure, my expectations were high, but the bigger problem was that I hadn't done this before. I hadn't created an onboarding strategy for someone, and I didn't really know what to expect. And this person was not the best at communicating. I actually think when she communicated, she did a good job of communicating, but maybe she wouldn't ask the right questions and I wouldn't ask her the right questions. So I think she got overworked or overloaded with a lot of responsibility very quickly. If I were to do this again, I would probably extend the time of her training, and I would have paid her much less for the training and onboarding, and then paid her more as she got started. So for example, I would maybe start her at $2 an hour and say, this is your onboarding, the training, and you can take your time however long you want. And guys, realistically, if you already have an established brand, or if you have a brand that has a voice and has a website and things, you're looking at about 1 to 3 months to onboard someone. Or let's just say before the first post goes live, you're looking at least 2 months. If you're a brand new brand and you're just starting and you're just launching, it's a little bit easier because this social media manager can come on and sort of figure things out with you and create your branding strategy, etc. I hired a separate branding strategist, so that was a $3,500 investment, and every time I would make any big changes, I always go to her and she charges $100 an hour, Rabeea Hasan, and I'll leave the link down below as well. And she's really good and is well worth the money because she has a very good idea of what it is that I'm trying to do with my Dr. Ashori brand. And she actually told me to completely get rid of my digital nomad physician brand, so I don't talk to her about that. I still want to continue my digital nomad physician brand, so no matter what she says, it's still gonna continue. So then when this other thing fell through, I tried to go with somebody from the past that I had worked with and just had her kind of create stuff for me piecemeal, like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll create this post for you, and then when you sign off on it, when you approve it, then I'll post it. It's really, really frustrating to have two brands that are pretty active and have somebody create a little bit of content that I have to then look at and like, actually that part doesn't look right, so can you edit it? And then another week goes by and then she edits it because she's working based on an hourly rate, and she can only give me 10 hours a week, so she's only going to get to that work when she gets to that work. So something that gets created on Monday may not even be finalized by Friday, and I'm posting 2 to 3 times a week. Do you need to post that often? No. But if you're a brand that's trying to figure out your voice, and that's what I'm trying to do with drashori.com, I need to post a lot, because the more I post, the more I figure out what is it that I really want to do. So finally I said, okay, let's just stop. I'm going to post myself. It doesn't matter. Even if it doesn't look great, I'm going to go ahead and get some posting done. Now, there are AI tools to help you post, and there are, CapCut and other software to help you edit videos. So it doesn't have to be very painful, but it is time consuming, and I can spend my time making money at $250 for 30 minutes. It doesn't make sense for me to spend that time editing videos. I thought about going back to Fiverr, and that was a nightmare, just to interview people and bring somebody else new on. I hadn't worked with enough people at Fiverr.com. So that's a big recommendation for me. Start working with different people on platforms like Fiverr so that you can get to know them, so that when you do need some extra work done, you can bring them on rather easily. And finally, fortunately, I work with a great website designer, Jeremy, who does all my websites, and he has a social media person in-house that was available, that had enough hours. So I interviewed her, and she finally agreed for $1,000 a month to come on and take over the brands and do all the work for it. Now, how's it going to go? I'm not sure. So far, it's going quite well. Our communication is good, and we're going to use different things like Trello and Slack to communicate. Do you need those? No, it's not a necessity, but in the beginning, you have to organize stuff. Generally, the way it works is there is an idea, then the idea has to be written, and then the written content needs graphics. The graphic content needs to be approved by me, the owner of the brand, and then it has to be scheduled, and then it has to be posted, and then that post has to actually be marketed. And what I mean by marketed, you have to actually get people to find that content that you created. So it's not as easy as just putting content out there and hoping like, oh yeah, somebody will find it and it's gonna go well, no problem. It's more involved, especially as your brand grows, as things develop, as you have more ideas, and when you want to use your brand to create call to actions, meaning I want you to now sign up for my course, I want you to book a consultation call. So that's where I'm at. Again, if I were to do it again, I would focus more on the person's time management skills and communication skills, and less on the actual graphics design and creation, because that part is something it's much easier to improve upon. But this other soft skill of time management and good communication is much harder. If that's already not there from the beginning, I thought I could instill it in someone, but that's not possible. The hard skill of graphic design is not that difficult to learn. And I think if you constantly give good feedback to someone, they'll learn it. So I hope that's helpful, and I hope it gave you an idea of all the pain and difficulty that I dealt with, because now I got to go back to square one and onboard a new person. But I have all my onboarding content, so that's really good. All my onboarding content is there. They know what to do. They can go through those cards on Trello and know how to get onboarded. So it's overall going to be much smoother. If you have any questions, go to digitalnomadphysician.com /courses if you want to start launching your own online practice course. And you can go to /consult if you're interested in booking a session with me. Take care, guys.